sinners, and saints. Dust off those horns and halos. It's time for Alan After Dark.
Have you ever just looked at somebody during a conversation and just wanted to say, "What the fuck is wrong with you, you fucking moron?"
I don't like you. I don't like you at all.
I find myself nearly on a daily basis, at least thinking those words in my head, thankfully not saying them, but it's becoming tougher and tougher not to lash out verbally at people, especially one of the things that I find the most bewildering of all, and that is a gay Republican.
What the hell? Oh my God.
How could someone in the USA who is gay vote for a member of a party that absolutely despises you, that is working to pass new legislation to take away virtually all your rights, including the right to not be fired for just being gay in the workplace? I don't get it. I wish someone could really tell me what the reasoning is, other than they argue about tax cuts, which they don't benefit from. And I just, oh my God, it's just so exasperating to bite my tongue sometimes. Most of you probably know I don't always bite my tongue. For example, a couple of weeks ago, it was a Saturday night. I was at the bar and I was sitting at the bar talking with friends, enjoying the night. It was a good night. It was a busy night. And these two guys come up beside me, and I know them as far as seeing them around. I can't even tell you their name, but they come up beside me, and I had no clue that they were fucking Trumpers. They were fans of the Orange Turd, and they were just really trying to pick a fight. I was trying my best to ignore them, and everything they said was just to try to provoke me and others around them into some kind of argument, like they were bragging, like they had won something over an election, even though we all know they're going to do nothing but lose. Finally, I just had enough, and I just started yelling out all the stupid things that the Orange Turd says. I finally just told him, I says, "Why don't you go over there somewhere and pat yourselves on the back while you still have the opportunity? I don't know why you're still standing here." They kept talking, and I kept talking louder and louder and louder. And finally, they got the message that I wasn't going to shut up, and I wasn't going to stop insulting them by telling them the truth, how stupid the motherfucker is. And they finally wandered off, and I've not seen them back since. I am sick to death of us being the ones who have to be the bigger person, who has to be the tolerant one. Tolerant of people who are not tolerant of us? Can you all explain how that works? I really want to know. If you wonder if I should invite gay Republicans onto this podcast, no, that won't happen. We already know all you'll get from them is a bunch of fucking lies, half-truths, just this delusion that they have that somehow, even though they vote for the party that wants to eliminate them, they won't follow through with that promise. Even though every day now we're seeing on the federal level, they're targeting the trans community for sure. I mean, no doubt about that. But they're also starting to remove all these other protections for virtually any minority, and that includes especially gay people. I just wish that people would open their eyes and wake up. We're almost at the point of no return. And as a gay man who struggled through those years in the late 80s and 90s with all the homophobia and racism and bigotry, I always was afraid to feel too comfortable with our rights, because there's always these people on the right wing that want to use us as a scapegoat to start chipping away at American democracy. Before anybody gets up in arms about what I've said, let me also remind you that two states, Idaho, no irony there, and Tennessee, both in the supermajority Republican state legislatures, have reintroduced bills to overturn marriage equality, thinking solely that the Supreme Court now would do it, even though I'm pretty sure that Congress codified gay marriage and that it's protected, but it won't stop them from trying. The simple question is, okay, you ban gay people, ban gay marriage, allow discrimination against gay people in the workplace, allow bashers to attack us and beat us and kill us on the streets. I guess that somehow will make egg prices go down, make gas prices go down, make the world not hate us even more. Maybe you guys can explain that. I have never understood in this country how a person of the middle class or poorer classes have more sympathy for the rich and the wealthy than they do the poor, when it is true that there is such a thing as corporate welfare, that corporations get money left and right through tax cuts and subsidies and tax breaks and other incentives at the state and local levels. I mean, just look at some of it's just one of those aggravations that just kills me, that multi-billion-dollar companies and individuals have a lower tax rate than we do, us poor folks. And the knowledge that a lot of poor people vote for them, the rich, versus someone who would know what they're going through, it just boggles the mind, doesn't it? And here it is, I'm wanting to talk about dick, and we have all this shit that keeps coming up. In our discussion the other night at happy hour, a person who was trans came in and sat down at the bar. His name is Brandon, and a good friend of mine and I were sitting there talking, and he jumped into the conversation a little bit about the fear that people are feeling in the trans community and in the gay community as a whole. And he and I were just kind of whispering, and I just said, it's tough enough being a gay person in this country, but I don't even want to imagine how hard it is being a trans person, how they're treated so badly just for being who they are. I'm just bewildered at why people think that they have a right to tell a trans person, a gay person, a lesbian person, a bisexual person, that we don't have a right to decide for ourselves and live our own lives the way we want to, without the fear of abuse, brutality, murder. Why do they think they have more of a right to tell us what to do than we have to tell them what to do? It just makes you just want to scream, doesn't it? It certainly makes me want to scream. But yeah, I wish we could be talking about dick all the time, but that's not going to be possible when, well, I'll just be honest. True confession here. There is beginning to be worry that even a podcast like Alan After Dark could be silenced. They could force podcast streaming services to not allow us on the platforms. That's censorship, but they're censoring and canceling everybody else that's in opposition to the orange turd. In fact, I don't know if all of you have heard, but here in Tennessee, the Republican-controlled state legislature actually passed a bill, a law. It's unconstitutional, by the way, but they still passed it, that states if an elected official votes on any other bills that would be in opposition to Trump's immigration policies, that person is subject to arrest, charged with a Class C felony, subject to up to 6 years in prison. In other words, in the state of Tennessee, if an elected official votes in a way that the Republicans don't like, they could be put in prison. Well, if you're controlling how people can vote, then it's not democracy, is it? It is fascism. And the Republican legislature here in Tennessee, they're just hoping that once it gets to the Supreme Court, that the Project 2025 picks that are on there will support, in the majority, unconstitutional laws. That should terrify every person in this country. Not just gay people, not just trans people, everybody, women, people of color, every nationality. You should be terrified, because the goal is, from what all I'm seeing in all these fucking executive orders that are so bogusly stupid, and laws at the state level they're attempting to pass, we are looking at The Handmaid's Tale. But never fear, sinners and saints. Alan After Dark is going to be here as long as we can. We're going to fight like everybody else. I wish I could say I have hope, but it's going to be a tough fight, and we're going to do our damnedest to make America democratic again. So it's bear night down at the club tonight, and I am very excited about it. I had a blast last night. I actually got to see a wing dang doodle, and I grabbed it for a second. It's always fun when you get to see an Engelbert Humperdinck up close, isn't it?
Yeehaw!
The male dick is just a fascinating piece of equipment, isn't it? It might look simple and not so complex, and I know that a lot of people hate how they look, but there's a lot of shit goes on behind the scenes in that thing. Yeah, trust me, when you get to be older and things don't work the same way as they used to, you become a little bit more knowledgeable of how many working parts there are connected to your sausage. I could use some sausage. Not just a quick hand grab, but a full serving. Or several servings. I think about that porn star Eli Hunter sometimes. Boy, he's a nasty boy, isn't he? He is really nasty. He does some gangbang shit that would make Dawson impressed. I'm telling you. Sorry. Dawson is was like the biggest porn star for Treasure Island Media. He sort of had a shaved head. He was very nicely built. He was what you would call a power bottom. Treasure Island Media was the upstart porn studio that was doing bareback and what was considered riskier behaviors at the time that they come out. And they broke big. They were upstaging some of the bigger porn studios because they were doing some nasty stuff that really did work. And Dawson became the premier star for them. I mean, I can just remember, what was it called? Dawson's 50 Load Weekend. I mean, my God, he was just getting pummeled over and over. And obviously, I watched all of it back then, and I wonder what he does now. But anyway, Treasure Island Media had, Dawson, and they had Jesse O'Toole and Brad McGuire. That was like their three main ones. And Brad and Jesse were tops, and Dawson was the nasty power bottom. There was nothing he wouldn't try and do. Yep. That's what made him popular when it come to porn. And Eli Hunter reminds me a lot of Dawson, his behavior and his sexual escapades, and even in the way he looks, sort of. So, a lot in common there. Eli Hunter is definitely a power bottom. Nasty slut. Total hoe. And they love it, and we love it.
Oh my god.
Tickle, tickle, tickle. Oh, tickle, tickle. Oh, tickle.
I know I've talked about that a lot, right? I talk a lot about porn and porn stars and how, give Treasure Island Media credit. If you still watch porn like I do, most of it now is bareback, like it was before HIV. And it really was because of Treasure Island Media. They were the ones that really got that going. And when other studios saw how much money was in it and actors were willing to do it, some don't, and that's by all means their right and their prerogative, and more power to them. I think it's hot either way, as long as everybody is a consenting adult in the performances. Either way is great. But they did really change the industry at a time that you wouldn't have considered a company would be doing that kind of film. But anyway, at the beginning of this segment, I said that it is bear night tonight. Well, now I can say it was bear night last night. I'm finishing up the recording today. And what was interesting is that I had a really good time. I flirted with a couple of guys. There was one guy who was very bearish, had a few piercings. And one of the guys seemed to like him, or at least physically was attracted to him. And this guy was just sitting over in the corner to himself, wearing flannel and looking all bearish. And we'd have been talking and laughing and cutting up and drinking for a couple of hours already, and I had to go pee. So I just said, I gotta go pee, and I head toward the men's room. Well, at the same time, he's heading to the men's room, and all the guys are like, oh, Alan, oh, look what's going on. And I just throw up my middle fingers at him as I go into the men's room. I always go into the stall to pee. And we actually started chatting. He said something about dick size. And I'm like, okay. And he said, I bet you've got a big one. And I was like, no, I really don't. But he says, well, how can I know if you're telling me the truth unless I see it? I finished peeing. I come out of the stall and went to the urinal next to where he was standing. And I just like, well, there you go. And I said, see, yours is by far bigger than mine. And he was like, well, don't sell yourself too short. Anyway, we exchanged names, and I just said, you're welcome to come over and hang out with all the crew at the corner that we're standing and everything. And he kind of just said, okay, well, I kind of am waiting for somebody and yada, yada, yada. So he went back out straight to that table again, to the corner, and the guys are all trying to rib me a little bit and all this bullshit. And anyway, one of my friends, let's call him Jim, he really did seem to take a shine to this guy. And I said, I can go get him and make him come over and talk to you. And he's like, no, don't do that. Well, anyway, when he decided to leave, he did come over. I don't know what came over me, but we just kind of made out right in front of everybody. And I noticed when we were doing it that people went silent. And I said, oh, I've known him forever. And they all just like, what? And I just was, cracking up at them. It occurred to me once again, people are afraid to have fun, to just cut loose and enjoy themselves because of what people will say about them. No, I know, I've already seen, I'm being talked about today, a little bit about it. That's fine. If talking about me keeps you from talking about somebody else, have at it, bitches, I'm not going to let gossip or rumors or even the truth, the fear thereof, prevent me from having a damn good time. As you get older, you just realize how short life is. And if this is it, you really don't want to look back on your life and say, well, I was pretty boring. Well, maybe you do. Not me. And if I have an inclination to make out with a stranger, I'll do it. I don't see any problem with me having fun in the way that I want to have fun. So here's your assignment, sinners and saints. This week, you better go out and have some fun. Whatever it is you like doing, cut loose and do it. If it's jogging, if it's playing chess, if it's watching movies, if it's kicking up your heels and getting fucked, have at it. Balls to the walls, bang a gong, let's get it on. Oh, I think out of curiosity, before we close this episode, which I know has been bitter and angry and slutty, I think I want to try something here. I want to add a little challenge to the end of this episode to see who is listening to Alan After Dark. I'm just going to say a phrase of something that I'm just making up. If you hear this phrase and you know me personally, it's your job to tell me this phrase. And that way I'll know who has been listening to the podcast as far as my friends go, So here we go. The phrase is going to be, his dick tasted like Old Spice. Did you get that? His dick tasted like Old Spice. Just text me or message me, or if you see me in person, just tell me that phrase. And that way I'll know that you listened all the way to the end of this episode. Come on, you know you want to make me feel good, don't you? Probably not. But anyway. I hope you've had a good time hanging out with me tonight. I hope you're not too angry and upset over some of the content. I hope you're thinking about dick like I am right now. Remember, take life by the balls and be real. We'll see you soon. Thank you.